Check this out in real time. Why should someone read Mostly Metrics?
Cuts through finance theater. Woo! Provides repeatable mental. I am not a mental model guru. All right, come on. Remember that startup CEO, the woman of the company, Frank? She said she had all these email addresses. They were all fake.
She appeared on the 30 under 30 list. That list has more people that are now in jail than like any other list.
Have you ever met with someone who's older? You ask for their email and it's a rocket mail or something because they're so important that they can't change it now. I'm keeping my Yahoo around, so in 2070 I can dish that out.
What was your Yahoo?
CJB Ball Gustafson at yahoo.com.
CJB Ball Gustafson.
From Mostly Media, it's Mostly Growth. Go-to-market strategist Kyle Poyar and CFO CJ Gustafson share smart takes on growing revenue and running a company. Pricing, unit economics, AI, leadership, candid insights for CEOs, CFOs, and CROs, or anyone else aspiring to climb to the C-suite. This is Mostly Growth.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. As a CFO, you're expected to bring clarity to everything, including how your company manages ownership. The tools you use should make that easier, not harder. But when they come with hidden fees, data you can't always trust, and support you can't rely on, you end up with more frustration than clarity. That's where Pulley comes in. Pulley is a cap table management platform built for finance leaders who need accurate, decision-ready data from a system that works for your business, not against it. With Pulley, you get intuitive workflows, audit-ready reporting, and support you can count on, all backed by predictable pricing you can plan around, so you can stay compliant and make smarter decisions about your company's future. Manage everything from fundraise modeling to ASC 718 reporting to custom liquidity programs, all on one trusted platform. Hundreds of high-growth companies like Linear, Fathom, and Runway trust Pulley to help turn ownership into a strategic advantage. And joining them is now easier than ever. You can switch to Pulley in as little as 5 days. And for a limited time, they're offering 25% off your first year. To claim your exclusive offer, visit pulley.com/mostlymetrics. That is pulley.com/mostlymetrics. Please, guys, I really need this. pulley.com/mostlymetrics. You just launched a new AI product. The new pricing page looks great. I'm talking crisp. But behind it, last-minute glued code, messy spreadsheets, and running ad hoc queries to figure out what to bill. Customers get invoices they can't understand. Engineers are chasing billing bugs. Finance can't close the books. Well, with Metronome, you hand it all off to the real-time billing infrastructure that just works. Reliable, flexible, and built to grow with you. They turn raw usage events into accurate invoices, give customers bills they actually understand, and keep every team in sync in real time. Whether you're launching usage-based pricing, managing enterprise contracts, or rolling out new AI services, Metronome does the heavy lifting so you can focus on your product, not your billing. That's why some of the fastest growing companies in the world like OpenAI and Anthropic run their billing on Metronome. Visit metronome.com to learn more. That's metronome.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Mostly Growth, the mostly serious podcast for anyone who cares about startup growth. And CJ, I heard you made a big purchase recently.
Yeah, well, my 2-year-old has this fun new game now where every morning she takes whatever is out in the kitchen and throws it down the stairs.
I love that game. That's my favorite game.
You play that too at home?
I do.
This morning it was my wife's iPhone. So we are down an iPhone. And so she goes to Verizon today. Have either of you tried to buy a phone being linked to someone else's account before?
It's been a while, but this was when I was like 30 years old, still on my parents' family plan, and I needed to get my mom's permission to buy a new phone, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
You're exposing me, Kyle.
Ben, are you on your parents' cell phone plan still?
I sure am, but you know what? I fit Kyle's criteria of I am 31 years old, so I think I still fit.
This is not Obamacare, Ben. You're past 26.
You're right.
Other than buying a house, I can't think of another purchasing or monetization experience fraught with more friction than simply just buying a phone and putting it onto a plan. I'm trying to give them money. I'm trying to give them one-time hardware revenue as well as a recurring, predictable auto debit stream, but somehow they need 17 different codes and they need me in person as well as the last four of my social.
Are they harvesting the data somehow? Like, is there just like a hidden monetization opportunity? The only thing like it I've had recently that's like as frustrating of an experience is I've been trying to buy business insurance, and it is impossible to buy business insurance like directly. So I had like an errors and omissions policy when I was doing some advising. There's some options that you can just buy something online. Now you can't talk to anyone very easily, and you cannot make any changes to the plan. And now that I have like a more serious solopreneur business, I tried to go directly to a few companies that say like they specialize in small business insurance. All of them are basically like, we won't write you a plan. You have to go through someone else. All of these have, middleman, which thankfully, if you can find the right middleman, it's actually not a bad experience, but it's wild that they won't even just like return your call when you're trying to buy insurance.
Did I tell you who does my business insurance?
That's who I'm using now because I couldn't go directly.
Are you on Lloyd's of London as well?
Oh no, they used we're gonna do Chubb, but the broker is the same.
He'll hook it up. You know how some people are like, oh, I got a diamond guy. I'm like, I have a small solopreneurship insurance guy, so I can hook up recommendations there. But I tried to get Chubb, I tried to get a couple others, and it came back, and it was a competitive rate. But it was Lloyd's of London. I'm like, is this a Guy Ritchie heist movie? Like,
that sounds really fancy of you.
All these insurance brokers just don't understand the business model. So when they see media and they see an independent publisher, they think that you're essentially somebody on OnlyFans.
Which honestly, the way I describe my business to non-tech people, because I was just at a holiday party last weekend and they're all like, what do you do? I'm like, I write a newsletter for a living. They're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, it's like a business OnlyFans. And then I was heard out of context and someone's like, you have an OnlyFans? I'm like, all right, I know what you're thinking. They're like, you don't look like you would be.
January is the anniversary of me being on my own, like running a business for the first time. And I've improved at many things, Kyle. I have not improved at describing to people succinctly what I do.
Oh, I'm terrible at that as well. An eye-opener for me going to a business networking happy hour and like introducing myself to people who didn't know me. And you're like, it was like, yeah, I'm the CRO of this company. I'm the VP of X at Y company. I'm like, I write a newsletter.
My wife and my daughter went out to brunch on like a day off with another girl and her mom from the daycare. And I think her husband's like a hedge fund guy or something in Westport. And the wife was like, oh, what does your husband do? And she's like, he has a podcast and a newsletter. And she said, I could instantly see her staring at me trying to figure out if we were either very rich or very poor.
It could go either way.
She's like, she was giving me the look like, do I have to pick up the tab for this?
Oh man, I'm just glad we've got this podcast now because people just describe me as a podcaster when I didn't have a podcast. I think because that was like the closest thing in their head to like a newsletter writer. But now they can call me a podcaster and it's actually accurate.
Yeah, my mother-in-law, for some reason, she likes to play tricks involving the kids on us. And so she taught my 4-year-old from the time she was 2 forward that for a living, her daddy works at the gas station. I don't know why. And so she kept just saying, oh, daddy works at the gas station. Daddy works at the gas station. Finally, when you ask her now, what does your dad do for work? She goes, oh, he has a podcast.
You finally trained her.
I finally got promoted at work and I'm proud to be here today.
All right, Ben, what do we got up first?
All right. I know on previous episodes, some folks have been flamed about their end of year predictions, their end of year, what's going on next year. But what are some GTM go-to-market or growth predictions that y'all have for 2026?
So I called out some people for doing predictions that are basically just saying something that's already happening is going to keep happening. So we'll try to avoid that, but I can't guarantee it. But the first prediction for me is that what ChatGPT says about your product, or in our case, your newsletter, becomes the top product marketing KPI. You know, for a while, we were just trying to get ranked in ChatGPT, like get ChatGPT to say anything about my brand. Now it's like what it says about us matters. And it's not like a Google search result where we write SEO content and we just hope that that content appears. We want our brand to be known for the right thing. It's kind of like the objective source about why we're better or worse than alternatives and who should care about our product. Like I think exec teams are going to start obsessing over this and not just like, are we talked about, but what do we know? What are we great at?
What I got stuck on there is the word objective. What does that mean in today's world? And I now kind of question sometimes when I ask for the best of anything in ChatGPT. When I would ask Google, it's like, okay, I understand the game. The first four are going to be sponsored in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to keep scrolling down, and maybe it will also match. But now when I type stuff into ChatGPT, and maybe it's just because we talk about this stuff and how it's moving to advertising, I just have like this weird feeling where I'm skeptical around if it actually is the best or not, because I can't tell if it's being monetized.
Well, it's definitely something you can game, and like people are going to start gaming it. But I think about now, you used to be able to trust reviews. Well, now people pay for reviews, and like they run a ton of campaigns with their customers. Everyone seems to have like anywhere between a 4.3 and a 4.7 star rating. So like reviews and ratings are pretty much useless for a lot of products these days. And then there's just so much content out there about companies, and like you go to their website and it's like, we're AI for customer service. And then you're like, all right, great. Well, there's 15 other products that are AI for customer service. And it just feels like a ton of work to go figure out the pros and cons of different players. And so at least ChatGPT is like, they will like synthesize all of the information that's out there, all the reviews, all the like Reddit threads, and they'll give me back something. Even if it's not completely right, like I feel like it's more trustworthy than any alternative there is right now.
Because it came from all different places. It wasn't like it just took one list that said this is the definitive XYZ. It sourced it from all different places.
Exactly. We can check this out in real time. So maybe like, why should someone read Mostly Metrics?
Because it's a definitive source for finance people working at tech companies to get better at their jobs. They want to understand the modern companies actually run, not just how they talk about performance. Specifically, Mostly Metrics is worth reading because it translates metrics into decision making. It's written for operators, not spectators. I would never use the word spectators, but I'll take it. Connects metrics to strategy. That is bland. Cuts through finance theater. Woo! Provides repeatable mental. I am not a mental model guru. All right, come on.
So basically, what we learned here is ChatGPT is the kind of garbage, but also it's not talking about you the way you want your newsletter to be talked about. So a KPI for you, maybe for next year, should be get ChatGPT to say the right things about my newsletter, so it makes it more compelling.
This is like a really stupid question, but should I just keep telling ChatGPT about my newsletter, or does it have to appear somewhere else?
I think you can do both. Having something on your site, because you covered so much other stuff and you probably have a trusted authority in general. Like I think that it will pull in what you have on your own site, but then you'd ideally want that amplified elsewhere. And so you'd want other people talking about you the same way. But if you write something on your site, like there's good odds that if someone's going to talk about your newsletter as the best in X, they're going to find your own content, and they'll often like use what you have to say to inform what they're going to say about you. Ben over here is trolling CJ in the background, asking if CJ is a cool guy. I mean, in general, ChatGPT is very nice. I would say you should change the tone of ChatGPT to like the snarky tone. Others in the industry describe him as pragmatic and engaging.
And we've got sources.
Don't let that go to your head, CJ.
I have technical depth. Little does it know I'm wearing khakis right now. So New Year's is approaching, which means we're all getting a nice happy holidays card from our local realtors in Dodge Ram dealership. I think that direct mail is going to make a real big comeback.
I don't disagree with you on this. People are back in the office these days. They're doing the whole 996 thing. I also think people are being inundated with email and LinkedIn, and all that looks very AI generated. And so getting a thoughtful like gift or just something that shows up for you, like you just don't get that much physical mail anymore. And so it starts to feel different, and like you're going to open it, you're going to read it. And so it's always been expensive, but I think that extra touch starts to stand out more in a sea of generic slop.
Well, especially for businesses who need to receive mail from their customers in order to do business. So we recently had Roland from House Call on, and he was talking about trying to reach your customers through the channel in which their business revenue doesn't survive if they don't respond to it. And I think that if you try to go after customers or prospects who need to receive mail in order to do business. I could imagine someday like a ChatGPT, like a placard card being mailed to like an auto mechanic or something. They're like, hey, honey, look at this AI thing.
I do think too, like one thing's with direct mail or gifting is that we now have a lot better data on like in buying intent or, who's in our ideal customer profile. We can do it in more of an account-based marketing strategy, even down market in a way that just like wouldn't have been viable before. And so if you can start to do ABM at a more of an SMB target customer, these things like direct mail and gifting start to become interesting parts of that strategy, and they can be applied where they haven't been, as applied before.
Give us another prediction you got.
So for me, I think tech companies are going to go on a buying spree for media and community assets. We saw a wave of this activity, call it 21, 22 timeframe. HubSpot bought The Hustle. Pendo bought Mind the Product, which is kind of a product community and content site. SEMrush bought Backlinko. There was kind of like a wave of these that happened. The rationale at the time was SEO. These community and content sites were really great at building an organic audience and really great at standing out on SEO. And then software companies have always been great at monetizing an audience, but like not getting the audience in the first place. Now the rationale will be, one is like, it's just really hard to do anything that stands out. And so if you can buy somewhere that already has an audience, like that's a huge leg up. And the second is these sites are seen as much more trusted by AI search. And so these are fantastic places to do things like competitive comparisons. ChatGPT is going to trust it on a third-party site more than they're going to trust that on your own website. And so to the extent you're trying to double down on AI search, having a third-party website or community asset is super helpful for that.
Remember that startup CEO, the woman of the company Frank, and she sold to JP Morgan Chase? She said she had all these email addresses. They were all fake.
Wait, I've never heard of this.
It was essentially like a media company and a database. I think it went after like students who wanted grants or something for college. But she sold it for $175 million, and then they got in and found out that all the contacts in it were bogus.
She appeared on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. I feel like that list has more people that are now in jail than like any other list out there. It's wild to me.
Yeah, she's serving 85 months in jail right now for 3.8 million fake contacts.
I'm going to need to audit your newsletter subscribers, CJ. CJ123, CJ1234.
CJ B-Ball Gustafson at yahoo.com.
Yeah, once you start seeing the Hotmails and the Yahoos, then you're like, all right.
Have you ever met with someone who's older, say they made a bunch of money in the early .com boom, you ask for their email and it's a rocket mail or something because they're so important that they can't change it now? That
is a sign that you're either like a grandparent or you just are so like wealthy and successful that was your original email and you just don't give a fuck.
I'm keeping my Yahoo around, so in 2070 I can dish that out.
What was your Yahoo?
CJ B-Ball Gustafson at yahoo.com.
CJ B-Ball Gustafson. It's like keeping your, AOL screen name. I feel like those are going to become like, what are those coins? NFTs, that's the thing. Yeah, your AOL screen name is going to become your NFT. Mine was KP Golf 12 because I was really into golf at the time. And I think like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. were taken. Do you have another one, CJ?
All right, Kyle. So I'm going to shamelessly steal one from you here just because I have some thoughts on it. So you said people stop using automation as a strength and prioritize AI that improves quality. And you said conversion, CSAT, and accuracy. So have you seen companies advertising and bragging that their NPS or their time to resolution or their accuracy is almost as good as humans?
I've seen that comparison used a lot because people are trying to figure out a way to make the AI relatable to like other stuff, and saying that something passed like this benchmark test at X score is just like really hard to wrap your head around. And so comparing it to human performance, I think is a lot easier. But I don't know if I've seen almost as good as much. When you think about like Waymos, they're going to try to talk about how they're better than humans, like less accidents than people, but saying you're almost as good as a human just reminds me of a saying my dad used to say all the time. Close enough is only
Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Yes.
I heard a finance company, and they were saying that their their billing product was 95% accurate.
We only send the money to the right account 95% of the time. That would freak me out.
And then I've also heard of travel companies say they're booking you a hotel or something, and they say that our CSAT or our NPS on this bot is within 5% of what a human is. You kind of also got to give me the cost trade-off if I'm paying for it, because the cost better be so much better to substantiate it being weaker than what I can get with humans. I just find it weird that some companies are putting these little factoids out there and hanging their laurels on them, when I would wait until you're 100% accurate on billing before bragging about it.
These comparisons can be helpful in certain verticals in the legal context. If you're like, hey, this passes the LSAT at this percentile score, like that sounds pretty good. Saying you're like almost as good, then I'm like, wait, almost as good as like outsourced person, almost as good as like a new hire, as someone with experience. And then, yeah, you start thinking about how important is quality to you. Last year was a year when efficiency was kind of a flex. Like people posted on LinkedIn, hey, this is like AI workflow that saves me 10,000 hours, comment prompt, and I'll send it to you. Like that was everywhere. And I think we really got to switch from automation as like a flex and just thinking about AI as an efficiency tool, and start thinking about like, hey, there's only so many target customers, only so many existing customers. Like we want better performance than what we've had with people. And that should be possible with AI. Buyers need to prioritize quality, and companies need to find better ways of talking about the quality in a way that's compelling.
How you talk about it can be everything. Otherwise, you don't really know what you're getting into.
All right, up next, it's the latest in AI. What more can I say?
So we've talked about ChatGPT a lot, but have you heard of this company called Open Evidence?
No.
It's like ChatGPT for doctors. It hadn't come across my radar at all, but I saw something potentially reliable. It was shared by Ed Sim from BoldStart, which gives me some confidence. They are raising at a $12 billion valuation as the revenue surges, doubling the valuation from the last round from a couple months ago, which is, insane. They are generating $150 million run rate on just ads, which is apparently 3x from August. And that's on like less than 1 million users. It's reported that their gross margins are 90%. It's like in large part an ad strategy. We talked about this in the context of ChatGPT. It's interesting to see a competitor actually doing this.
Isn't the most expensive Google AdWord like mesothelioma?
I mean, it would make sense. Like if you're in medical space, it's really hard to get your brand in front of doctors, whether you've got like a medical device, prescription drug. I mean, there's a lot of compliance aspects of that too, but like this is a very high value audience.
I thought I had the highest value audience, CFOs spending juicy VC budgets, but this may be an even higher one because they're essentially encouraging patients or pushing the drugs to patients that will be paid for through either government subsidies or through your healthcare provider. So it's an extremely lucrative audience, so much so that, I have friends whose job is to go door to door, literally selling prescription drugs or cream for if you have some sort of weird itch to doctors. So it substantiates even people going door to door still.
Yeah, I have a doctor friend who's always bragging about going out to some fancy restaurant and was like, oh yeah, I was a drug rep, sent me here. I was like, that's allowed? There's some like gray areas around what is allowed and what's not, but advertising or sales tactics are quite large.
This validates something that I heard Mark Andreessen talking about, and he was saying people love to say that subscription is the future. Everything's wrapped in some sort of subscription or outcome-based model. The whole internet just runs on advertising. Advertising is the most lucrative model out there. All these CapEx budgets for AI are being fueled by advertising from Meta and for Google, and it just shows once again that advertising is not dead. In fact, it's never been alive and better.
If OpenAI wants to get to 500 billion in revenue, like what's their path there? And I don't think we could find a consumer subscription business that was doing more than 40 billion in revenue. Within B2B SaaS, Salesforce is doing 40 billion as well. Like there's only so much you can get in a subscription company. But then you look at Google and Meta, and like there's hundreds of billions out there on ads. So I found this to be an interesting case study. But I guess paired against this, so a lot of what we've been thinking about and talking about on this podcast is the AI boom versus the AI bust, and how much is being spent on CapEx and why that's putting so much pressure on AI companies to find a profitable, revenue stream that can offset all of the spending. But I think that, there's been some more talk about like AI bust scenarios and how that might happen. What have you been seeing?
So Noah Smith, he is the best newsletter name ever. His name's Noah. It's called No Opinion because he writes opinion columns. He was digging into what if AI really can be as great as we think it is. And within B2B, we have all these epiphany moments. We've already had the ChatGPT moment within customer support. We've had it with coding, but you need to open up the budgets elsewhere, whether that be to other departments to do B2B subscriptions or to go through advertising. He said, what if we agree that it can get there someday and it can make up all those incredible revenue numbers that me and you were trying to forecast? Like how can they get to 500 billion in revenue? But what happens if it takes 10 years longer? So he said, if AI takes 10 or more years to generate enough value to pay back all these debts, many of these companies could go bankrupt. Whatever financial institutions they've borrowed money from, private credit firms, banks, etc., may fail or have to pull back significantly when their loans suddenly go bad, and that could touch off a financial crisis, even if AI continues to advance and companies continue to build data centers. And he likens it to the railroads. And so I didn't know that this part happened with the railroads, that they built them all and they eventually used them all, but there was a gap until when they could ramp the economy to start using railroads as the channel to deliver and have enough customers riding on them.
Yeah, the most interesting quote from the piece that I saw was about the Sears catalog, which was kind of like a killer app of the railroads. So if you're thinking about like railroads as infrastructure, and then you have apps that like things that are going to use all of this infrastructure space. The Sears catalog was like one of the first things that allowed people, across America to order products and have them delivered by railroad. So relatively quickly, this revolutionized retail of the time. But the Sears catalog didn't start until 1888, which was 15 years after the big railroad crash of 1873. And so the insight is like, this revenue could be real, but it could take longer than people think, and given the timing around all the capital expenditures, that could be a bust scenario that like is a positive scenario but still leads to a bust.
So it opened my eyes to maybe it's not a question of is the value there, it's just a timing gap of how things are financed. And he brought back that Financial Times article where, remember HSBC caught a stray, Kyle?
Oh yes. OpenAI needs to raise like X billion dollars to keep losing money.
Comma HSBC estimates. Like, bro, why you throw me in that title? But he brought that back. And I was going through it again, Kyle, after we got off the phone. They were trying to back into a similar number that we were. How do you get to 500, 600 billion in revenue per year? Because it says OpenAI is heading for a data center rental bill of about 620 billion a year, right? That's a crazy number. How do you back into it? We think we can get there, but is it within the next 7 years? I don't know.
One of my favorite things is how they find these photos of Sam Altman looking like depressed or very contemplative.
Sad Sam.
I'm not sure if these are AI generated or not, but there seems to be like an infinite number of sad Sam pictures that they can use.
Dude, it's like a genre now, sad Sam photos.
What unlocks this opportunity is either AI performing better than people. I don't think it's like necessarily AGI for AI to start outperforming humans in certain tasks. But like if AI consistently outperforms humans in really valuable tasks, that's quite a lucrative revenue stream for AI companies. The other model is like if there's so much attention on these apps and we can monetize the attention through advertising or purchases, like either of those directions could be the answer. I think you need one of those directions to make the math work.
I think we just need time. It's crazy that we've committed to this much infrastructure spend, and it's like just we're trying to keep up here. We're trying to find use cases at the same speed that construction is digging holes in the Texan wilderness. What are we, sending them to space now or putting data centers in space? I don't know.
I'm thinking about laying the railroad tracks and like trying to take someone somewhere on the railroad, but there's like no cities to drop them off. You need like railroad stations. You need cities built up around those so that people have a reason to travel. There's a whole process that kind of gets into place around monetizing the infrastructure. Chicago, I think, was an early railroad city, but it's hard to predict what some of the other ones are going to be. We all know about coding. That seems to have taken off. We know about customer support. But what are the other killer AI apps?
Ben brought that up in a prior episode about LA.
Yeah, I was going to say part of the strategy with some of the early railroad stuff was building to places where there was no city because it was a real estate play. So it was building to, we will get the revenue off of people buying up the land here.
Build it and they will come works quite well if capital is cheap and infinite, but does not work so well when the bill is due.
Next up, we got pricing in the real world. Let's get it.
For me, one of the pricing things that I read recently was a New York Times piece called "A Rare Bright Spot for U.S. Solar Subscriptions: Energy as a Service." Have you guys heard about this?
No, but I am not a fan of how solar panels look. Continue though.
Explain.
You don't like windows?
When I see a really nice house with solar panels on it, I'm like, ugh.
I was an environmental studies major, so you need to be careful, CJ. There's ways of doing it that look good, and there are ways of doing it that look shit. I will agree with you on that.
I would like to see one that is aesthetically pleasing.
I think the wind turbines tend to look worse than solar panels. So one of the things that I found interesting, solar construction is down pretty significantly. Solar installations rose only 10% the last year, according to this New York Times piece. Wind installations have basically stagnated, it says. But this energy as a subscription service, which the idea is lower the upfront costs, so make it affordable, more compelling to install solar and have some sort of recurring revenue stream. This is sort of something that actually was part of the mix, even going back 20 years ago, but it's having a comeback. A company called Sunrun is thriving with this energy as a service model, even as the broader industry struggles.
Does Elon Musk's brother own this one too?
That probably wouldn't hurt. Their stock is up 75% this year. They've added 30,000 new customers for each of the last 2 quarters on this subscription model. This is the kind of the bright spot in an otherwise cloudy environment for solar.
That was a dad joke if I've ever heard one, Kyle. The upfront cost to buy them has always been the friction, right? It's a large capital outlay upfront.
Buying the equipment and the installation and all of that. What can be helpful for solar is when the energy costs are unpredictable or going up.
Yeah.
The idea of a subscription sounds much more appealing, I think, to folks versus if energy costs just seem low or staying down.
Oh man, I went down a deep, dark rabbit hole on AirPods. How big do you think AirPods would be if they were a standalone company?
My guess is maybe 100 million units, and what are they, $100 a piece? So whatever the math is on that.
I have 5 pairs because that means I've lost them 5 different times.
You have 5 pairs?
Oh yeah, I have 5 pairs. 4 of them are the AirPod Pros, and they're all aptly named Air Potatoes 1, Air Potatoes 2, Air Potatoes 3 when they go into my Bluetooth, so I know which ones they are. Either my kids lose them or I lose them, so I have many of them. If you were to break away their sales from Apple and multiply it out, it would be a $23 billion per year company. For perspective, Kyle, $23 billion a year. That is bigger than Adobe. That is bigger than Spotify. That is bigger than Airbnb. It's bigger than Shopify, Zoom, and Pinterest. We're talking about headphones here.
Way bigger than I thought it would be, especially considering AirPod Pros came out and they could do noise canceling and I think they had a longer battery life. That was huge for me. I went out and got those immediately, but I don't think there've been major upgrades to them since, have there?
You can shake your head yes or no. I don't really know what that does because I don't do it myself.
They do heart rate now?
They can do heart rate from your ear?
Mm-hmm.
What? But you think this is a combination of upgraded functionality, but then more than that, just people wanting to replace them?
I think it's people having to replace them. I think it's a signaling thing too. People feel looked down upon if they have a cord. I think about it more as a recurring revenue stream. I'm good for at least 1 pair every 6 to 12 months, Kyle. It's a one-time hardware purchase, but I think it's ARR.
Phones are essentially phones as a service, right? These days where they bundle the service of your phone in with the hardware costs. I wonder if they're going to start bundling AirPods into hey, for an extra $10, you can get AirPods and we'll replace them once a year or something.
Dude, take my money now. It'll probably be less friction than my wife trying to buy a phone today.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production, executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe. Give us 5 stars or hit like. The algorithm overlords thank you. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.